Okay, agenda's before you. Entertain a motion to approve.
I have a couple things I want added to it. The Parks Commission pay of the treasurer position and the township manager evaluation, just both as discussion items.
New business is park treasurer, did you say?
Parks Commission pay for the treasurer position that they just created in their bylaws. Bylaws. And MBA, township manager evaluation, both just discussion items. And with that being said, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support?
Support. Babel.
Able? All right, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from the last meeting. If we get a chance to take a look at those. If so, I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Ritchley?
Support.
Ms. Babel? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Presentations. We got a presentation from our township manager and our director of public services for the new officials, and then an overview for everybody here. If you can refer to the one on your table, or
There is not one on the table.
There's what?
You'll get a presentation copy after.
Oh, okay.
After the meeting.
So we have to pay attention.
That's, sorry,
You can't be wrong.
that's my MO. Go
I got it.
ahead.
All right.
So I'm just going to do this for everyone's benefit. I think it'll be a good refresher for some new information possibly, and stuff that you may already know and stuff you may not. Okay. Definitely helpful, hopefully, for our new members. And when I'm through, I'll let each new member do their own presentation. No? Okay. Okay.
I want you to do that. I know.
All right, so I'm going to just start off, and again, it's probably a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but I'll try and go over these things. Again, this will be something that you'll get a copy of. This is our organizational chart as of October, and it says of October because we added the Director of Public Services down towards the bottom right. You'll see where the top of the food chain is your voters, and under that are the Board of Trustees as a whole. You'll see some dash lines and solid lines, and if you're familiar with org charts, those dash lines are implied oversight, but not direct oversight. So implied oversight of the board to the township manager, direct oversight by the supervisor. Our assessor, attorney, planner, engineer are all contract, so they are implied oversight by the township manager as well as the township supervisor. Excuse me. And so, as you can see, everything else that goes down is direct oversight. So I want to give a little overview of township manager kind of roles and expectations. And these actually kind of come right from MTA. They recently did a story in their magazine, and it's entitled, "Should You Hire a Township Manager?" And they go over kind of the roles and functions of how a township manager keeps the day-to-day operations and consistencies throughout different administrations. When there's turnover of board members and other staff, this is the consistent person that'll keep that going. So providing consistency and continuity, overseeing day-to-day operations, implementing policies set by the township board, managing departmental activities, preparing budgets, advising the board on policy matters, and ensuring the efficient delivery of township services like road maintenance, utilities, and land use controls, essentially acting as the primary leader in executing the township's vision and goals, and we'll talk about that too, under the direction of the elected board. So basically, it's to provide control over all activities that are not assigned by state law to another official, such as treasurer and clerk, for example, and provide a liaison between the board and the various township departments. So here are the functional oversights for the township manager. Basically, these are all the hats that a township manager wears at any given time. Human resources, labor relations, finance, budget, purchasing, communications, public information, emergency management, contracts, agreements, policies, legal, liability, insurance, and planning and zoning. And so this is the organizational administrative function of the Director of Public Services, which again I mentioned was recently added to your organizational structure earlier this year. And this is his basic oversight. Policymaking head of the Division of Public Services, provides oversight of water and wastewater treatment plants, and I believe he's welcoming all of you to take a tour. If you would like to take a tour of your plants, you should definitely get in contact with Dwayne. He's right here. So in charge of oversight of engineering projects, building and grounds, and other public services and utilities activities. Performs senior level and experienced work in managing capital improvement projects, which includes overseeing various development and construction phases for the Department of Public Works, water and wastewater plants, and coordinates and works with engineering and planning consultants, outside contractors, and county state agencies. So he's got his plate full right now with all of the things that he kind of stepped into that were already underway that you've seen going on for the past 2 years in your front yards, basically. And here's kind of his bullet point oversight. Kind of more detailed from the last slide. Oversight of all operations of the 3 departments. Department of Public Works, we call that the DPW, getting used to some of the acronyms, and water and wastewater plants. Oversight of various related construction, development, and improvement projects. Administration of bid packages and contract documents, front-end contract specifications, special conditions, drawings. He and I would work together when there are bids to be let. We would work together to get those posted on our intertrade network to make sure that we have the opportunity for the most wide cast bids to be solicited. Preparation of the budget for the Public Services Division, again, DPW, water treatment and wastewater treatment, and participation in labor relations. He's the direct oversight to the plant operations and those employees, with support in the areas of human resources, labor relations from me. Development of policy with Board of Trustees, another acronym, BOT. Guidance for drinking water, wastewater, and DPW projects. Development of asset and work management processes. Organizational structure, the Township Board. This is basically something you probably are already aware. We are a charter township, and you're governed by the Charter Township Act. There are general law townships, which are slightly different from a charter township in that they don't have a charter. A lot of times you'll hear about a city charter or a village charter. That is a separate type of structure, and it's much more stringent and has much more opportunity for the council, usually it is a village council or a city council, to set their own rules, regulations, policies. The Charter Township Act basically sets what you are allowed to do as a governing board. So as a member of the Township Board, your supervisor is the presiding and executive officer of the board, and he does have an equal voice and vote in the proceedings. The supervisor will authenticate by his signature any instruments which the board and laws of the state or federal government may require. So he's basically the legal agent that is to be signing or to ensure that documents are signed properly on behalf of the township. So and this is just some basic information. There's a lot more. I gave each of the new members kind of an onboarding packet. Talks about meeting structure and oversight of the actual meeting itself. There's a lot that can be gained from having a really good, solid understanding of how the board meeting should go. So, for example, if the supervisor is absent, the board itself will appoint a president pro tem just for that meeting. The clerk keeps the record, and if the absence of the clerk, the board can appoint one of its members as a temporary clerk. And so here are the basic oversight roles of you as a township board. All of the statutory requirements and duties that are basically you're going to find in your charter law, your charter township charter law. Programs and services for your constituents. Your fiscal management budget adoption is a very large part of your oversight and duties. Ordinance adoption, and appointments to other boards and commissions that was being discussed earlier today. Planning and zoning and the master plan, and recently we have updated the master plan and it was adopted this year for the next 5 years out. And we do keep a copy of that in our lobby out there, a paper copy, and online is a link to that as well. And your oversight, and this is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about at the end of the presentation, in mission, vision, and values. Specific to duties of a certain office, for example, the supervisor, his specific statutory duties are as legal agent and budget administrator. Clerk is basically statutorily required to keep records and run the elections, and the treasurer is responsible for tax collection. As far as other duties as assigned, those are something that you'll work out with us as staff, what you need assistance and support with, and your deputies will be able to support you in those duties as well. So just a little bit about communication. We are a full-time staff, you are a part-time board, so we try to fill that gap so that we make sure that we're carrying out your mission, vision, and values the best that we can. So communication is going to be really important. I'm your primary contact for all board members to communicate with employees, except in the case of an employee who also may happen to be a deputy. Township supervisor is the primary contact for administrative communication with the township manager and director of public services. You have your first agenda in front of you, and you've already noticed that sometimes we make a little mistake here and there, so but we try to get those agendas put together and correct at least a week before your meeting so that you have them. We're actually reviewing those the Tuesday prior to your meeting so that we can, as a staff, decide if we need to request any other items on the agenda. Usually those are administrative. The township supervisor will set the agenda, and then, as you know, you did do that earlier, you approve the agenda. Board member can request an agenda item through the township supervisor, either preferably before the meeting, so that if the supervisor needs to convey that information to a staff member in order to provide more information to support that request, we can do that. So the administrative agenda items are submitted for consideration by myself, township manager, director of public services, and other staff as appropriate. And as we go through the next few months, you'll see how that rolls out. The general public may request an agenda item for consideration through a board member, which then would in turn request it to the supervisor. Add-on items are discouraged once the board packets have been released. And because meetings are twice a month, in some cases this will be unavoidable. We do understand that. But also, because meetings are twice a month, it feels like we're constantly preparing for the next meeting. So we try and do as much as we can well in advance so that we aren't doing last-minute items. Additional material supporting an agenda item may be supplied at the meeting. Early arrival at the meeting to review some of that is encouraged. Sometimes I'll stick some informational materials on your table up there. They may or may not refer to an agenda item, but they may be just for your information. And if you have questions, that'll give you a chance to consider those questions. So board packets are supplied in advance. Questions about agenda items can be directed to the township supervisor or manager, depending on the issue at hand. If it's something administrative and you have a question, you can contact me directly about an agenda item. And then if we can provide those answers, those would be provided to all members so that you all have the same information when you come to the meeting to prepare yourselves to take a vote.
Can't stress that enough, too. I mean, questions on individual things are hard to get answered here on the spot. So if you do have some questions when you read through it over the weekend, because everybody, you get it before the weekend, simply just email somebody, me or the manager or director, and then we can provide that either back with email or at the meeting beforehand. Because a lot of times we're like, well, I don't know, but I'll check into it.
And all questions are welcome.
Yeah, it is. Especially, you know, being new, you're going to have things that we have gotten used to and you don't know about, so that's great. So I'd really like to just encourage that. When you bring it up at the meeting here, it's kind of hard to answer some of that stuff. You can't walk into the other room and get that answer while we're in the meeting.
So that's a good point. That brings me up to my next item. Agenda items requiring additional information can be tabled, and what Vern just described, we could actually do that if there's an agenda item and you're just I need that one report to finalize my decision to vote. We could table that, or rather you can table that and go on with your meeting, and I can go and gather that information, bring it back to you, and then you can reconsider that vote. Sometimes that information is not easily accessible, so you're going to have to postpone. So those are two different situations depending on what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
And that's the proper wording I learned in supervisor school. Tabled means just for later in the meeting. If you're gonna, most people say, well, table it till next meeting. The correct term is postpone.
And it comes from the old, put it on the table, literally the table behind you, and continue your meeting, and then the other people will get the information so that you can reconvene.
Yeah, and we can do that sometimes too. We
It
just
is possible.
Table it while they gather the information.
And again, because you meet only twice a month, some of these issues are very timely, and if there's just one piece of information that's missing for somebody to feel confident in a vote, then I would encourage you to table and see what we can do so that we can get those issues taken care of that day. So we talked a little bit about this at the very beginning, about the board oversight roles, and I mentioned mission, vision, values. So I'm sure you've all heard of this before if you've been on boards. This is inherent to having a successful organization. And we looked at the organizational structure. Your voters are at the top, and they expect you to carry out the mission, vision, and values of the community. So that is where your functional role comes. We don't have a whole lot of structure in that area right now. And this board has a great opportunity right now to take that on as your challenge and come together and kind of figure out what it is that this board wants to see. So I have a couple of videos here that kind of get you to the point. Oh, it's not working.
And that's something we'd like to do here before the next
This isn't working.
few meetings coming up this winter.
That sounds-
Maybe have a
Oh,
work session about
it's not
that,
working
talk
here.
about that some more.
Okay. So what I have here are a couple of examples of where,
It's our roadmap on where our city
Why?
is headed. We want people to start
Hold on.
developing
What's going on?
connection with nature.
We don't own and operate one.
all right, let's see if we can, how do we do this? You got this figured out?
No.
Okay, well, maybe I need to get this down.
Can you drag it over?
Huh, what's it doing? Oh, because you have it on play mode, not just, okay, let's close this.
There you go.
Okay,
Go to the last
and we'll
slide.
just go down here, okay. Here we
There you
go.
go.
It's
Okay,
our roadmap on where our city is headed.
We want people to start developing a connection with nature.
so again, these are examples of the end product of mission, vision, values discussion.
We wouldn't have the focus.
This was a good spot to put a filter that would intercept flows coming down the existing storm sewer. We would be trying to do everything at once, and we simply can't do that.
Down the hall here, we have our program space room. And I want to just ask them why we're doing it.
We're here to listen to the residents. And we're here to provide services for the residents.
We want to be totally transparent on what we're doing and how we're doing it, and frankly, we do it pretty well. Every day, everybody comes in and they have a playbook to go by. And I think that that actually helps employees feel good about coming to work and about the work that they're doing.
I think the biggest thing for me is involve your staff early in this process, not just your upper management staff, but staff at different levels. It helps create buy-in, also helps them understand what the city's priorities are.
Being able to sit down in small groups and having an outline and then being able to offer your input is really beneficial, and it really brings the team together.
Having the strategic plan helps the community development department stay on track because it's something as a guide. It's there, it's in writing, you can always look back at it and say, you know, is this really something we should be focusing on?
Strategic plan or no? Does the township have, if they have a master? No, you have a master plan, but not a strategic plan.
priority area guide, we have 6 of those. And then it's up to staff to develop those plans and strategic objectives and actual tasks. One of the hallmarks of our city council is that they want to be transparent. And the Invisio software allows us to report to our community and our residents what we're doing.
And with the key outcomes, those are where we're listing more statements.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly. That allows us to tell our story to the council and to the community that we're taking good care and being good stewards of their resources.
I think it means everything to our community that they can trust that their elected officials are making the very best decisions, that they are transparent, that there is a foundation for them, that they are part of the strategic goals that we've set for our city, and we know exactly what it is that we're accomplishing.
In a quick snapshot lets you see where we are, how we're doing, and also not being afraid of showing that there is a delay. Sometimes delays are inevitable, they happen, but at least we're communicating that to our residents.
A good example of that this year has been the excessive snowfall we've had. So we've had to shift resources to buy additional sand and salt. We bought a new piece of equipment so that we could plow the sidewalks in our community.
Like any city, we have finite amount of resources, so we want to make sure that we're putting those resources in the places that residents want the most.
I think it brings the community into the decision-making of the city so that they can see clearly what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it and what we're trying to accomplish.
It's really nice to be able to have that positive engagement with the residents. We have an understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and it makes them feel good about their tax dollars hard at work.
So again, that's just one example. And there are a couple more that are in the handout, and I can email you those links if you wanted to watch them. Each one is about 5 to 7 minutes long, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. Because this is going to be something that we're going to bring back after the new year and talk about how this board wants to move forward with that strategic planning of mission, vision, and values for you.
Yeah, it kind of gets back to what kind of level of services do we want to provide to our residents, you know, what's important to them, you know. We're going to be going after trash collection bids in '26, you know, do we need leaf pickup, or do we need, you know, the yard waste, you know, because everybody's different when you look at townships and cities. Everybody does a certain level on those services. And us as a board, we have to decide what we want to be offering to the residents, you know, what level of service, because that's all add-on stuff when you make the bid of what do you want to do, you know, just get the trash and forget everything else, or what, you know. But we provide a pretty good level of service right now, you know, and if that's important to the board and to our residents, then we're going to keep it that way. And you know, that's the types of things that we're going to talk about, and then we'll go right down the line. But that's just an example of one. So, any questions? Thank you.
Sorry, I did have a question. I didn't know if it was all over or not. On the organizational chart, I brought an old one and I have the new one. And the thing that kind of confuses me, because, and I have our little red book from the MTA too, but the way that it works, the township board as a whole, not any one board member, but we direct the township manager together. It's not the supervisor, it's all of us together as a township board, and that's the way that it is. It's in statutes and all that kind of stuff too, but it's on the strong administrator model, which is what we have, because back in 2018 when we hired a township manager, that's just the way it is, but it says the job description of a township manager is directed by the township board. So I mean, we could put it in the supervisor's position to be in charge of that, but that's not the way it is now. In fact, the job description was never approved by this board at a public meeting. So, but it says, and any of the manager's job duties can be removed or changed by the board in either general or charter townships. So, in my opinion, that new thing, it needs to be a dotted line from the supervisor to the township manager and a direct line from the township board, because that's just the way it is. But
we'll get that clarified, yeah.
And
I stepped into this 3 years ago, and my understanding of the thing was took a lot of my duties and did them. So I'm all for that. So that's the reason I took this job, because I didn't want to be a full-time supervisor.
Right.
So again, the lines and stuff like that, we'll get it clarified.
But I mean, the other thing too is with the attorney and assessor and planner, engineer, contracted, it shows a dotted line from the supervisor too. In my opinion, if the board votes to do that, which obviously you helped a lot during, you know, the stuff that we needed help with, which there wasn't really a lot of experience. So I mean, I appreciate that, but without a vote of the board, it's really not, it's not on the purview of the supervisor, like the statutory.
Well, I pulled that up out of the chart township because I knew you'd have that question. Supervisor of each township shall be the agent for his or her township for the transaction of all legal business, lawsuits, employee, anything that requires an attorney. I'm the one that's to talk to the attorney.
That's if the board votes to do that.
It says it right in here that I'm the only agent. No, it doesn't say that
correct.
the board has
But
to do that.
if the board votes to go into a lawsuit or whatever, then yes, but.
We don't
You can't
decide
decide-
whether we go into a lawsuit or not. If we get sued, we're in a
Well,
lawsuit.
no, I understand that, but you don't arbitrarily just go, okay, I'm gonna do this without the knowledge of the board. That's not the way that works.
Well, knowledge of the board's one thing, but as the legal agent, I have the option, I have to respond in a timely manner. I can't wait for every other week's meetings for stuff like that. So that's the direction I've been
That's
led
not the way
to.
that works.
So,
That's not the way that works, but.
anyway, did you have anything else?
I wanted to just add, so the new members have received a copy of this training form. I think, Pat, you've turned one in, and Jim, you've turned one in. I think there were 2 dates highlighted, but the Port Huron one, I would encourage you to go to that as a group, if more than one obviously are going. Just let me know if you want to go. Make sure you make that date free, and I'll make all the arrangements for you to attend. That's for new as well as everyone else. And the Red Book that you're referring to, there's a new issue underway right now. It's not quite yet published, hopefully within the month, and then we'll get new copies for everybody.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions?
The only other thing on the budget too, that's, in here it says that the township manager, if we have a township manager, which we do, they're in charge of, like, I mean, obviously we monitor it, but they're the ones that come up with it, so.
Well, she works at my direction on that. I'm the one who's still statutory duty of me presenting the budget. So, I believe that's one that can't be transferred.
Okay, hold on. I looked at it somewhere. Let's see.
We can come back to it in comments.
Yeah, I'll find it eventually, yeah.
All right, moving on, public comment. Anybody wants to speak, just go to the podium, name, address, and 3 minutes. Seeing none, move to consent agenda. C1 is the employee rate increase for the water plant, and C2 is the employee rate increase for the DPW. Any comments or questions of that? If not, entertain a motion to approve that as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Richley, is there support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Disbursements. Generally, I
Mr. Supervisor.
try to read that, so Ms. Horn?
Do you want me to just bring it up at comments? I found it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Payroll is $49,467.82. Accounts payable, $123,638.93. EFT is $21,511.50. E-checks, $604.60. Tax, $1,267.27. Invoices, $1,017.242.22, for a total of $313,732.34.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the disbursements as presented? Ms. Horn?
Yes, motion to approve.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Yes.
It's Babel. Correct?
Yep.
We got to do the roll call on that one.
Roll call vote. Clerk Smith, yes. Treasurer Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Bebak?
Yes.
Trustee Klein?
Yes.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Supervisor Westrick?
Yes. Whole business, the Township Hall Landscaping. I think we had a meeting after the last meeting where we postponed that, talked about some plantings and stuff, and Clerk was okay, correct? Talked about
Yes,
some-
after that meeting that I had suggested we wait on that process until we do new plantings in the front. We met with the landscape proposal people, and they can do all of the project, but in the spring, we will be planning to add landscaping in the front.
So that'll come back in the spring.
They will come back in the spring to finish that part of it.
Yeah, and we'll bring it back to the board for any additional for that.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I make a motion we approve the low bid of Kevin's Lawn Care and Snow Removal of $14,641 for the Township Hall upgrades for landscaping.
I support.
Okay, been moved and supported. Are there any more comments or questions? If not, please call the roll.
Roll call vote, Clerk Smith, yes. Treasurer Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Bebak?
Yes.
Trustee Klein?
Yeah.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Supervisor Westrich?
Yes, thank you. New business, one, Park Commission members. We have received 3 applications, and I make a motion, or I don't know if we do that, or we just say we do it with the blessing.
Yep, you make a motion.
Motion to approve Betty Sharp, Fred Sharp, and Bill Westerhoff. They have all filled out applications. I know Bill, have some pretty good experience with the other 2 on here, so I make a motion to approve all 3.
Support. And thank you to them for volunteering to be on the board.
Yeah.
We got a full one right now, then.
Who supported?
And-
Right.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Business 2, resolution to adopt building officials, zoning administrator, and inspectors for the fiscal year 2025. It's a kind of housekeeping thing that we have to do every year. Resolution 19-2024 is the appointment of the same. There'd be Tracy Kalick is the building official, and the building inspector, and the zoning administrator. For East China Township, Kelly Smith will be appointed as the plumbing and mechanical code inspector, and Greg Furtaw as the electrical code inspector, and James Schaefer is the ordinance enforcement officer for the Charter Township of China for the year 2025. Any comments or questions on that? If not, I make a motion we approve those as presented. So we have now, there's nothing new there.
Support.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call vote. Clerk Smith, yes. Treasurer Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Bebak?
Yes.
Trustee Klein?
Yeah.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Supervisor Westrich?
Yes. Okay, new business 3, proposal for contract equipment rental. Our Director of Public Services solicited bids to the public bid system for equipment that we would need on an as-needed basis that we do not possess, such as a larger excavator for a sewer main break or something like that. So we have them services available. We have approved contractors to provide those services. We received 1 response, actually, unfortunately, but Telto Contracting is the contractor that sent back rates for us. Again, this is on an as-needed basis, and we're going to probably be doing this every year, and we're going to be adding services as we go along, as we find stuff that we need. So that's pretty much the process. I make a motion we approve Telto Contracting as one of the contractors that we can procure these services from on an as-needed basis.
I support.
Okay, been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
I have a question.
Yep, sure.
Will we be, is this something like emergency situations, or?
Most of the time it is, or
Or
if
come
we-
to the board with a proposal, or? what?
Yeah, unless it's a planned budget item, like if the DPW has something in their budget that says, hey, we gotta replace this section of sewer this year, and he's put it in the budget, but it's too deep for him to dig with his machines, then this is where we'll use something like that. Or if it is an emergency thing, same thing. If it's something that we can't handle with our own equipment and services people, then this is when we would use them.
So we wouldn't
So-
go out for bid, or? we would just
No, it's gonna
hire
be,
them, contract with them?
it's gonna be at the discretion of the DPW and Director of Public
Yeah,
Services.
so
on
one
that.
thing that I've done, because we only secured one bid, is look at cost sheets for some of their competitors. They are right in line with anybody else that does this work. The only difference is they took the time to, look up the proposal and respond in a timely manner. I can tell you there were several local contractors that saw our request and did not respond.
Yeah,
So-
unfortunately, that's correct, but, and our Director of Public Services has been, or Director of DPW, that's what I'm trying to say, has been doing these on a as needed basis emergency. And what he tries to do is say, all right, I've worked with these guys before, all right, we can get a price from them, real quick, and I'll get a price to them and see what they say. Well, that eliminates that from him. If he has to have a machine, this is the person he goes to. The good thing about having more than one is if this particular contractor says, I don't have that machine available right now, then we've got to figure out something. So in the future, we hope that we get more people.
Right.
This is right in line, and we patterned it off the County Road Commission, does the same exact thing every year. They have solicitations for what.
And from my point of view, we will have all of the necessary paperwork on file for these contractors.
Right, they got their insurance certificates.
Insurance certificates, all of their rates, their key personnel, so that we're not stuck wondering if this person that we're calling has actually got the capabilities and the required insurance. That's a big deal for me.
If you look at the proposals,
That was
they have a
important.
lot of stuff in them,
Yeah, they did a nice job.
It helps us avoid some of the things that we found ourselves subject to earlier.
Some of the problems
this
we've already
year.
had since I've been here, yes.
Okay. Who supported that motion?
You did, I thought.
No?
No, I did.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay.
okay, any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Dangerous Buildings Hearing Officer, new business 4. We have a structure we're working on that we feel is, that our building official feels is not safe, and we need to get it pushed to get it safe or whatever. So Resolution 20-2024 is the appointment of the Dangerous Buildings Hearing Officer, and we had an interview, and we discussed it with the person and have rate from him. David P. Frazier is it's an attorney, and he's also a licensed builder, so he's perfect for this job, and he'll be the hearing officer for that dangerous buildings hearing. Okay?
So when would that come into play?
Little grocery.
I
Right,
can
but
answer
like,
that.
what's the process?
So when our building official deems a building dangerous,
Okay.
he will send a notice to the owner, and he will advise them that he's put them on notice that their building is not safe, and then the public hearing officer will conduct the hearing if the person who receives the notice disputes that.
Okay.
It's to elicit a response, to say we're gonna do something with it or not, can just let it just sit there.
All
You
right.
get old buildings that catch on fire.
Some communities have a board, multiple people. Our ordinance calls out a specific officer, one person will make the determination.
Can't be any person associated with the township either. So, this is the one we found finally. Took us 6 months. Anyway, so I make a motion we approve David Frazier as presented here for that position.
I'll support.
Any other comments or questions? If not, you need to do a roll call when it's a resolution.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's do a roll call vote. Clerk Smith, yes. Treasurer Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Babel?
Yes.
Trustee Bebak?
Yes.
Trustee Klein?
Yeah.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Supervisor Westrick?
Yes. New business 5 is the employee professional development training request you see in front of you for our wastewater treatment plant supervisor. A lot of these are required. He's got to keep this up. And it appears that it's $799.93 for your notes. And I make a motion we approve that as presented.
Support.
Any other questions? Not, clerk, please call the roll.
carried. All right, roll call vote. Clerk Smith, yes. Treasurer Horn?
Yes.
Trustee Babel? Yes. Trustee Bebop?
Yes.
Trustee Klein?
Yeah.
Trustee Richley?
Yes.
Supervisor Westrick?
Yes. New business 5, this I'm sorry, we did that. New business 6, right? Adopt sewer ordinance amendments. We don't actually adopt them here tonight. This is the first reading for the presentation. These are presented, hopefully you got a chance to read over them, and I'd like our director to speak a little bit about that, but he's aligning them in. You told me something earlier, and I don't remember what it was.
This was
Some fancy
brought
word.
to my attention by our Department of Public Works supervisor that there were some enforcement issues with our sewer ordinances. This is our first step in creating verbiage that is defensible and provides a very detailed mechanism for enforcing our ordinances, either with fines or with implementation of ways to correct violations in the construction of our sewers. So the next step will be the approval of this ordinance change, and then we'll work on the water side as far as enforcing our water ordinances as well.
And this was discussed a lot at the asset meeting as well, too, back and forth about what do we need, what needs to have more teeth in it, what are we going to do to make them abide by the rules. So,
Well, you know, I read this and there was a lot to it, but he said there were specific things that were the problems? There were problems for him?
I'm sorry?
This had a lot of information in it?
Yes.
And didn't you just mention that the supervisor there said there were specific items that he was concerned about?
The enforcement process was one of the most specific items. Having the board be uniform.
Oh, the ability to enforce the items?
Yep.
Okay, okay.
you'll see the changes here, the ones that are crossed out, and then the ones, you know, how it's lighter on your copy here. And the ones that are crossed out are being eliminated, and then you'll see the new words that aren't crossed out, but they're gray, are the new additions. Okay? Then you'll see quite a few through them towards the end there, under violations section. That was the one that got the overhaul. So, this is the first reading of this. It's been looked at many, many times. If someone has a comment or question on this, if you haven't had a chance, please direct your comments to myself or our director, as in 36 hours I will be unavailable for a little while. So, this is the first reading, and it'll be the second reading, and we'll adopt it at the next meeting if there's no changes to this, okay?
So it'll be read into the minutes then?
Yes, it's going into
We
the
will
minutes now,
state-
though. Yes, it is. Thank you for that. Okay? 7 is the park treasurer pay. Mr. Richley.
Yep, at our last park commission meeting, the park commission voted, not sure if they voted, but they for sure directed me to come here and ask to give Evelyn Tolles, who is now the treasurer of the park commission, a pay raise. Each commissioner, I believe, gets $25 per meeting. The chair gets $50. The
Chair only gets 30.
30.
Oh, 30.
And the treasurer
Okay.
normally gets 30.
No, the
Recording
treasurer doesn't.
secretary.
No, the
Recording secretary.
I have the resolution here. There's no mention of a treasurer in any of the commissions, so that's why it's
Right.
got to be decided by the board.
Isn't that $50 for the chair? Okay, that's what they said, I'm sorry.
No, it's
So I was just going off what they said, but, so she was asking for 40, but I guess just match whatever the secretary gets, that's what they're suggesting.
No other treasurer on any commission gets a higher pay than 25.
I gotcha. Well, that's what they asked, and I just, my whole thing is, I don't understand why any of us get paid, but, but as trustees or whatever, but I mean, I think that, that's something I wanted to bring to us, and, after researching the committee that we put together when we, raised the treasurer's pay and all that stuff, that I believe the average in the state of Michigan for planning, park, all that stuff is like $100. It's a little over $100 per meeting. We pay 25, and our
Very
trustees, our supervisor clerk are paid way higher than other communities around the state. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it's hypocritical for us, to be doing that. And we also get pensions, we get, insurance and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of goofy too, but, but anyway, that's my opinion.
So is there?
But that's our.
Something proposed, or you're?
Their request was $40, which obviously, that was with the knowledge that I thought that the chair got 50, so I didn't know that. So.
If we're gonna do it, I would suggest going all the way across the
Correct,
boards.
correct.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
increase everything the
Correct.
same,
Correct.
not pick and choose.
Right now, each
certain
member gets
ones.
25 per meeting?
Normally,
Do you want the resolution? I have a copy of it right here.
yes.
Yeah.
Do you want
In
to
the
see that?
past, the chair would get 30 and the secretary would get 30 for doing the minutes.
You're gonna have to set a new resolution.
But they don't do the minutes. The secretaries don't do the minutes in a lot of the boards anymore.
Well, right, we changed that.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, the park
recording
commission,
historical
planning commission,
is
and
still-
ZBAs are all the same. The chair's 30 and the secretary members are 25. And it's historical commission, 30 for the chair, members 25, 30 for secretary. St. River Sewer and Water is 30, 30, and 25. So it's a little bit different, but for most members it's 25. And if it's, the secretary gets a little more because they have to do the minutes, I'm assuming, but
Right.
that's the way that is. We have a recording secretary now for the park commission, right? That we pay
And
separately.
planning, I think.
Right.
Planning
Yeah.
I
commission
think
too.
all but historical,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when it's split, we do our own.
So if there's a,
Well, I-
are you proposing anything?
Well, I'm not saying I think we'd have to do a resolution, so I mean, I'm not proposing anything tonight, I'm just
Discuss it.
bringing it up to talk.
Right.
Yes, I would make a suggestion, if we're going to raise one, we should do them all across the
Yeah,
board.
I agree.
And I think they all should be the same across the
Yes.
board.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of these are not right now.
Nope.
Okay, well, is there an amount that you people are thinking, so we can make a resolution next meeting, or do you want to discuss it? And
Why don't we take it, have it for discussion at the next meeting, and meanwhile, we can get our ideas together and maybe do some research and bring it back.
Okay.
See what other communities are paying and.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
so it'll be postponed to the next meeting, how's that?
It's been a very long time since we've ever looked at that.
Okay.
Okay,
No, any of the boards.
so is everybody happy to that? Motion to postpone till next meeting?
We don't even have to, it was just
No.
a discussion item,
Right.
so.
Right.
yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
And then new business 8, you want to talk about an evaluation?
Yep. This is something that I've been talking about for like 6 months now.
Yeah, you and I have talked back and forth on it,
Yeah.
and I'd like to sit down and, if it's the wishes of the board, the whole board, then we'll do this. And now that I'm, like I said, Wednesday morning, I'll have my knee replaced, so I'll have some time to sit at the computer and do something. So
Unfortunately.
if that's something that, we want to do, then I'll start working on it more now that I'm slowed down a little bit.
Unfortunately, obviously, I mean, no offense to the new people, but it's like, we have 3 new people that have no knowledge, well, very little knowledge as to what's, so I mean, it's kind of, it would be unfair for them to be a part of the evaluation.
Yeah, but if you want it at a certain time, we can at least prepare what it's going to be.
Correct.
If that's what you want. And if that's the wishes of the board, then we'll move forward on that.
What are you saying?
I just,
To prepare an
so,
evaluation?
To have an evaluation for the township manager is what he's asking.
the only employee of this board is the township manager, and so if we're not evaluating them, how can we give constructive criticism, how can we give, or accolades or whatever you want to say, like, I mean, it's kind of goofy that hasn't happened. And to my knowledge, it's never happened, so.
Well, how's it done in other townships that have
uh,
managers?
well, I have a couple of different groups.
Some of them do, some of them don't.
Okay,
And a lot of it's in contract too.
okay.
I'll send you guys an email of all this stuff. I gave it to Vern.
As an
Weeks
HR
ago, but-
person, I think an
months ago, but-
evaluation should be done annually.
There's a lot of townships that do it, that have township.
Okay, I guess
managers.
my qualm here, my question mark is, are you asking that each member be part of an evaluation for someone that we don't even know the day-to-day, what she does all day long, every day for that position?
Well, do you want me to give you some
Kinda-
examples?
We're
Well-
skimming off air here,
Well, again, it's
because
kind
we
of,
don't know the details.
well, that's kind of part of the
But we
problem,
should
but that's
know
not
the
what I'm,
details.
but, so,
Okay,
the Charter Township, whoops, that's a different thing.
I would suggest a committee,
I don't agree with that.
and the committee can take whatever, if the board members have suggestions, the committee sit down outside of this, of a board meeting, and that's a private matter, that's,
Well, right, it's,
Well, it will be.
it would be a
done
closed
privately
session,
regardless. It'll
potentially.
be
I
whether
mean,
it's individually and then comes to me and I review.
well, how can it be private if we're discussing it at a board meeting?
We're not, we're not. We're discussing the evaluation, we're not discussing the
The tool
performance.
to be used to evaluate.
Correct.
Right, it'll be well, what he was posing is a written evaluation, each one fills out and then comes to me, and I look them over and I review them with the.
I don't think I emailed it, I only emailed it to Vern and Nicole, I think. I don't think I emailed it to you, but I mean, it's a very standard practice of townships that have township managers. It's not abnormal. It's like,
I'd be open to read it, but
Yeah.
I'm questioning how it's gonna play out.
I mean, that's up to the board.
Let's revisit that again at the next meeting then, it's presented here now.
Okay, all right.
How it's gonna be handled?
If it's gonna be handled or how. All right?
I mean, I'll email, do you guys want me to email all this stuff to you?
Yeah, you can if you want, I
Okay.
have it, but
Okay.
I would like basic knowledge about how you're proposing to proceed with it.
I mean, it's up to the board, it's not up to me, but I mean,
Exactly.
you can, yeah.
But I need more knowledge to make an informed decision.
Mhm.
I can't,
Right.
because I'm not
Seeing how that's
Okay.
gonna work right here. This table.
all right. Announcements, I think I just have one, Dwayne maybe knows, but the new DPW plans are done and we do have them now, they've been revised. So they're in review, they're with our building official right now, an inspector. And I believe Dwayne's reviewed them, and then I'm gonna be looking at them again too. I've looked at the online version, but kind of hard to see. I like my 24 by 36.
Can you bring a copy to the board meeting next time maybe, and we can all look at it?
Yep.
Just so we can see.
Yeah, we only
what
have
we're
one set
doing?
right now, but we thought we'd mark those up to make sure that we have what we want, and then we'll get after our review, then we'll get them out to everybody. Yeah, we'll make sure we have them.
Even just to be able to look at a
I'll leave them
copy.
here for the next meeting.
Yeah, it's,
I don't need to have a copy.
we're
to keep.
correcting small stuff right now that we see, and then that's gonna be it. We're gonna be done with the plans, and we'll let you see them.
And they're in my office, Sandy, if you'd like to look
Okay.
at those, any member of the board,
Tracy's looking through
feel
them.
free.
Okay.
I wanted more than one, but we only got one. But anyway.
The
at least
new
they're-
building we're building for the
So the
DPW.
plans for that are gonna be, let's finalize everything this month.
Yeah.
And then we'll start putting something together for a bid, maybe February, something like that, maybe March, just get our ducks in a row. We're gonna do it as a general contractor bid to begin with, see if that works, see where our numbers fall, and then, construction start, weather permitting, spring. We're just not gonna try and do anything now, obviously, so. All right, but we wanna have our ducks in a row and ready to go.
So we want to go to bid in the spring?
Probably March,
I would say
maybe February, just
Late
depends, but
as soon as we
yeah,
get
there's
to
some
spring.
things I want to do with the plans. I want to take the schedules for fixtures and lights and stuff like that and submit them and say, the best place to go is Supply House. They'll say, we haven't used that in 35 years. You can't even get it. Trust me, that's what happens, so. I want to make sure before we go out to bid that we've checked that already.
Right.
Stuff like that. Or that particular electrical panel, well, you do know it's got gold trim on that, I want to eliminate those errors, and
Right.
that's the kind of stuff we're looking at right now. All right, that's all I had for that. Anybody else? Deb? Cindy?
Nope.
Mr. Klein?
No.
Comments?
I guess I'll take it all. First off, I want to welcome Mrs. Bebuck, Mrs. Horn, and Mr. Klein to the board. Thank you for stepping up. And now, on Mr. Fournier that came to the meeting the one time about the water issue, he said he was not contacted by a township staff.
Oh, no, that's untrue. Our director of public service, or DPW supervisor, went out to try to review that, and then he was working with,
Okay,
on that
did he
too.
talk to an employee?
Dwayne.
He talked to me.
And he talked to
After.
myself too.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you can get someone to back that up, you know, because our staff could not.
Okay, right.
Before the last vote, Dwayne talked with us a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
And
the
then,
revote.
the Centas restocking fees, I was gonna ask this during the.
That's
thing, but-
when like someone uses a Band-Aid and it's gotta be replaced. That's the simplest version,
Okay.
or something's outdated.
Okay.
A lot of stuff's got dates on it.
I got you.
It's gotta be
Because there
updated.
was a lot, this month and last month I noticed, I was like,
It's annual. That's the annual
Okay.
update. Like a lot of
Okay.
the certain, like maybe Tylenols expire.
Okay.
You know how that
I was
goes?
just curious, yeah.
So
yeah.
that stuff that's the restocking fees.
Okay,
And it's
okay.
Usually
I
an
got you.
annual.
That makes
basis.
sense.
Yep.
The couple of questions I asked you in an email, total compensation per employee from salary, healthcare, retirement, et cetera.
Yeah,
Can
we
get
have that.
Can
Yeah,
get
we have
that?
that. That's what we use to put the budget together.
Okay. Can we get a copy of
Labor
that?
cost for that. What's that?
Can we get a copy of that?
Sure.
Okay.
Find it.
Okay. And then, the Parks Budget 5-year plan, I'll bring that up at the next meeting, but the copy of policies for the township, can I get a copy of that? Like, I don't know, digitally, or so I can print it out, or,
Policies for the township.
yeah. We have like a policy book with policies, guidelines, stuff like that.
I don't even know if we possess a
We
digital
do,
copy.
we do. It's in the vault.
Oh, it's in the vault?
Yeah.
I don't have a key to that. So we'll look into it, see what we can find.
Okay, I would like a copy of that, because there's some questions I had that I just wanted to see if we had policies on things or not, and,
Is it on the website too?
no.
It's not?
No,
Nope.
it's internal.
Okay, the
Internal
policies. All right.
Our code of ordinance is online, but not the policies.
Right.
And then, hold on. I wanted to answer the question from earlier, when we're talking about budgeting responsibility. This is on page 228. For the purposes of the act, the township manager or superintendent is the chief administrative officer with budgeting responsibilities. If there is no manager or superintendent, the township supervisor is the chief administrative officer. And that's MCL 141.1, or 141.422B and 42.10I.
Great, I don't have to do it anymore. Perfect. Kind of strange that you don't want your supervisor involved in budgeting.
Well, no, I'm not saying you shouldn't be, I'm just saying that that's the responsibility of the
Yeah, well,
township
maybe what
manager.
we can do is clarify exactly what duties are mine and what are not, if you want to, but, that's one of those ones I definitely want to stay involved with.
Yep.
Because I've got the overall picture of
We
what
should
goes
all be
on.
involved with it, but yeah.
Between the two of them over
definitely.
there coming together with me, we know what, and the board can communicate what we want to have and what our wishes are.
Right.
Or our plans are, and then I can know what to budget for, too, you know,
Well,
it's
that-
not just that little bit.
I think in part of the strategic plan thing too is figuring out what lanes where, and we have a township manager, most townships don't. We have director of public services, all that kind of stuff, and we need to figure out whose lanes what, who's supposed to do what, because I've been here 4 years and I still don't understand exactly.
I
how
remember
that-
somewhere once that
Yes.
I was allowed to, for the most part, direct the manager what duties I didn't want to do or whatever, or someone did before I
You
got
can
here.
delegate it, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's why I've assumed what I've assumed.
And that, and then the MCL about that, you have to, in writing, whether it's the supervisor, clerk, treasurer, if you're giving your authority to somebody to do the job of, or those statutory duties, you have to do it in writing. And that, to my knowledge, that's not been done
Yeah.
over the years, so.
I have no idea, I've only been here a short period of time, but that's,
Never have.
that's what the good thing about this, what's coming up, that will clarify a lot of this stuff,
Yep,
so.
that's all I got though, thank you.
Okay, if nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there support?
Support.
I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, we're adjourned.